Coming up on Bridge City News, a winter storm that slammed into southwestern Alberta forced the cancellation of many services in Lethbridge. We have the details. A retired colonel with the Canadian Armed Forces stopped by our studio recently to discuss the many challenges veterans face today. And we hear about how churches in Central America are helping so many displaced by Tropical Storm Ada.
Your nation, your province, your southern Alberta. From the heart of Lethbridge, it's Bridge City News with Hal Roberts.
Thanks so much for joining us. The winter storm has come and gone in southwestern Alberta. It brought up to 20 centimeters of the white stuff in the city and up to 40 centimeters in the Crow's Nest Pass, which was the hardest hit. The storm left behind quite a mess. Many cars ended up in the ditch, and there were a number of accidents reported, especially on Highway 5 between Lethbridge and Cardston. Ainsley O'Reilly has the details of how the snow day has impacted so many in our region. Ainsley.
Thanks, Hal. I've been cruising around the city on this chilly Monday, and it looks like it's business as usual for most motorists. I would be lying to you, though, if I didn't tell you that our Bridge City News vehicle didn't get stuck on the corner of 7th and 4th Avenue South. All major Priority 1 roads are being plowed today, and Bridge Drive will be closed for the remainder of the day. School buses are shut down, and the Lethbridge School Division has canceled its classes. The U of L and Lethbridge College have gone virtually today, and recycling services will also be delayed. Hal?
It is no secret that businesses in Lethbridge have been hurting due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The tourism industry, including hotels, seem to be the hardest hit. As video journalist Micah Quinn explains now, the Lethbridge Lodging Association and Visit Lethbridge have instituted an idea to bring people back called the Spotlight Rooms. It's where visitors can come in and see a themed hotel room while supporting a great cause.
This is the Under the Sea theme room at the Holiday Inn Express in Lethbridge. Locals and visitors can book online to visit 5 rooms that have each been transformed into a new theme, and then take pictures to post on social media.
So basically, you're booking through the hotel. So you go onto the visitlethbridge.com website, book your package that you want to stay, whatever hotel you want to stay at. Then they give you a booking code. You'll get a date and a time. Then you just show up at the hotel. The room is available to you, as you can see. Take all the pictures you want for up to 20 minutes. And we suggest, or we encourage you to book and move on to the next hotel.
Primo says that this new initiative gives hotels a tourism package and something for people to look forward to when they come to Lethbridge.
Like an export-ready product that hasn't been done anywhere in Western Canada before. As you know, social media, Twitter, Facebook, all of that is uber important and in everybody's lives nowadays. So this gives everybody a chance to come in, do what they want to do in the rooms, snap it, tweet it, Instagram it, post it, and do it again.
All of the proceeds from the tickets purchased in Lethbridge will go to the Lethbridge Food Bank,
which again is an important institution in Lethbridge to help out families that are in need, especially with what's been happening of late.
Due to COVID-19 guidelines, only 6 people will be allowed in a spotlight room at a time. For Bridge City News, I'm Micah Quinn.
The Kainai Board of Education announced that schools have been closed on the blood reserve this week. School officials say they were taking this proactive approach to limit the transmission and spread of COVID-19 in their community. As of Sunday, there were 14 active cases on the blood reserve. Alberta Health says there were 919 new cases of COVID-19, along with 5 new deaths reported in our province. Premier Jason Kenney is urging Albertans to stop holding house parties and get-togethers. In total, there are now 6,822 active cases of the novel coronavirus in Alberta. The Calgary zone has the most, with 2,886 active cases, followed closely by the Edmonton zone with 2,819 active cases. Here in the South Zone, there are 398 active cases, including 164 right here in Lethbridge. Lethbridge County, meanwhile, has 45. And in Medicine Hat, they have 15 active cases of the novel coronavirus. The Lethbridge Scouts have started a GoFundMe called the Fund a Poppy campaign. The goal is to have the Scouts paint stones with poppies on them to honor veterans as part of Remembrance Day. The Scouts will then place these poppies on the grave sites of our veterans.
We've gotten up to this point 1,400 rocks painted or poppies done, and we were hoping to do closer to 1,500, but we don't, all this has to be done at the youth homes. So this is what we've got. We do know that there's 1,500 grave sites at the military cemetery, and we're hoping to fill as much as we possibly can.
The GoFundMe has currently raised almost $400, and all of the funds will go to the Lethbridge Legion. The Royal Canadian Legion says the COVID-19 pandemic has hurt poppy sales leading up to Remembrance Day. Tammy Wheeler, Executive Director of Alberta Northwest Territories Command, says only half the normal amount of poppy boxes are out this year in Alberta. She says as a result, fundraising efforts are falling short. The Legion has introduced new touchless donation boxes. Albertans are also encouraged to make donations online or through text to donate options. Wayne King is a retired Canadian Armed Forces colonel. He joined us in studio recently. I asked Wayne what the money raised from poppy donations goes towards.
And all of those donations go to the Poppy Fund, which is 100% used in support of veterans to meet their emergent and urgent needs, whether it's for shelter, food, medicine, or to support members of their own families.
Catch the full interview with retired Colonel Wayne King, who will also discuss the many challenges our veterans face today. That's coming up in the second half of our program. Social agencies in Saskatchewan are accepting mask donations to help clients comply with the province's mandatory mask mandate. It went into effect in Regina, Saskatoon, and Prince Albert last week as COVID-19 cases continue to rise. The province currently has 3,897 active cases. A spokesperson for an AIDS program in southern Saskatchewan says some clients do not have the means to purchase masks. Similar concerns have been raised by Carmichael Outreach, which works with the homeless population in Regina. Manitoba's Southern Health Region has implemented new COVID-19 restrictions. Public health officials say they have new measures that were brought in to deal with the rising cases of the virus. The restrictions include closing restaurants and bars except for takeout and delivery, also limiting cultural and religious gatherings to just 15% capacity or 100 people. The province is also limiting grocery stores and pharmacies to 50% capacity. Manitoba also closed movie theaters, concert halls, and recreation facilities. The province currently has 8,130 active cases of COVID-19. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau expressed optimism for a new COVID-19 vaccine, which is being developed by Pfizer. The PM says there is some light at the end of the tunnel when it comes to the pandemic.
At the same time, we're also seeing other vaccine candidates progressing well. In Canada and around the world, scientists are working very hard and doing a great job. We hope to see vaccines landing in the early next year. But between now and then, it's really, really important that we double down on our efforts. We see the light at the end of the tunnel. We are hopeful we are getting there because our scientists are working incredibly hard. But we need to do our part.
Millions of North Americans have lost their jobs due to the COVID-19 pandemic. You can include Mary O'Coin-Cardo in that group. Mary is an author, and she wrote a book on how to deal with unemployment. She says following a job loss, a big key is adjusting your budget to help you live within your means.
Scale down what you like to eat. Learn to cook very frugally. We had tuna macaroni casserole more times than I can count. If you need someone to take care of your pet while you're unemployed, let them adopt your pet temporarily. Shop at Goodwill, shop at used clothing stores. Get rid of the cable TV, get rid of the things that you do not need.
Catch the full interview with author Mary O'Coin-Cardo and Jeanette Rocher coming up after Business News. The federal government is promising to invest $1.75 billion to connect Canadians across the country with high-speed internet service. The Liberals say 98% of Canadians will be connected by the year 2026, and the hope is that everyone will have access by the end of the decade.
This fund will be used to build infrastructure across the country almost entirely in rural and remote communities. And for places that are just too far to reach, including in remote areas in the north, we've reached a $600 million agreement with Telesat for satellite capacity to improve broadband.
Canadians, especially those living in rural communities, asked us to design a program that is flexible to address their diverse needs, to include backbone, last mile, and cell service. They asked for a rapid response stream for projects that can connect communities faster. They asked us to ensure our investments are future-proofed and keep up with the ever-evolving technologies.
There was major flooding in many areas of southern Florida as residents felt the wrath of tropical storm Eta. Beaches and coronavirus testing sites were closed, public transportation was shut down, and many had to evacuate as the water levels rose in neighborhoods. Tropical storm Eta brought in more than 12 inches or 300 millimeters of rain and winds of around 100 kilometers an hour. The storm was centered south of Naples, Florida, then moved along the southwest Gulf Coast. Fort Lauderdale's mayor called it a 100-year rain event. Churches and many other ministries have been helping so many in Honduras and Nicaragua who have been impacted by the devastation of Tropical Storm Eta. As we hear in this next report, the churches have also been serving as a center for the gathering and distribution of food and other essential services.
Hurricane Eta has left devastation on its path through Central America. Honduras and Nicaragua have been the hardest hit by the storm. Heavy rains caused severe flooding that left many people trapped in their homes and workplaces, unable to evacuate. Some had to be airlifted by the Honduran Air Force. Honduran President Juan Orlando Hernández announced that millions of resources will be allocated to rebuild the damaged road infrastructure.
Special forces teams, both from the armed forces, the National Police and the fire departments, have been working on rescuing families who have been left on the roofs of their homes or in places of high danger.
Churches and ministries have already begun to offer help to those affected, setting up their temples as places of refuge. In addition, they are beginning to collect resources, such as food, to give to those affected by the hurricane.
We are distributing food at the shelter we opened in the temple. The aid that the people bring is being given to the families who are in the shelter, which are brothers and sisters who were flooded and who, thank God, were able to leave their homes safely.
We thank the pastor and harvest ministry for opening the doors and supporting us. We have many families, children, and animals that are sheltered here, and help is reaching us, so we want to thank each one of those who are helping us.
Javier Bolaños for the Global News Alliance.
Even though the Electoral College has not officially named Joe Biden as the winner of the U.S. presidential election, he's acting as though he won. Over the weekend, he told supporters that as president-elect, he will restore the soul of America.
We have an opportunity to defeat despair, to build a nation of prosperity and purpose. We can do it. I know we can. I've long talked about the battle for the soul of America. We must restore the soul of America. Our nation is shaped by the constant battle between our better angels and our darkest impulses. And what presidents say in this battle matters. It's time for our better angels to prevail.
Kamala Harris is paying tribute to black women who, as she says, prove that they are the backbone of democracy in the United States. Harris, the daughter of Indian and Jamaican immigrants, is projected to become the first woman to be elected to vice president.
Congressman John Lewis, before his passing, wrote, "Democracy is not a state, it is an act." And what he meant was that America's democracy is not guaranteed. It is only as strong as our willingness to fight for it. To guard it and never take it for granted. And protecting our democracy takes struggle, it takes sacrifice, but there is joy in it, and there is progress, because we, the people, have the power to build a better future.
British Prime Minister Boris Johnson took it upon himself to congratulate Joe Biden and Kamala Harris as the two are projected as the winners of the U.S. election.
I congratulate President-elect Biden very much on his victory, and of course I congratulate Kamala Harris on being the first female vice president as she will become in the history of the United States. And the United States is our closest and most important ally, and that's been the case under president after president, prime minister after prime minister. It won't change. And I look forward very much to working with President Biden and his team on a lot of crucial stuff for us in the weeks and months ahead.
It was on this day that Germans dance on top of the Berlin Wall as communism crumbles in Eastern Europe. A massive blackout hits the northeastern seaboard, and actor from The Honeymooners, Art Carney, dies. This is Today in History for November the 9th.
November 9th, 1989. A sign that the end of the Cold War is near as joyous Germans dance atop the Berlin Wall. Communist East Germany throws open its borders, allowing its citizens to travel freely to the west. 1938. What becomes known as Kristallnacht, or the Night of Broken Glass in Germany and Austria. That's where the Nazis loot and burn synagogues as well as Jewish-owned stores and houses. 1965. A series of power failures plunges the Northeast into darkness for 13 and a half hours. The blackout leaves 30 million people in 7 states and 2 Canadian provinces without electricity. 1953. Dylan Thomas, the Welsh author and poet, dies in New York at age 39. And 2003.
Now listen, Ralph, as long as we're neighbors, you don't have to call me Norton. Call me Eduardo.
Actor Art Carney, who played Ed Norton in the classic TV sitcom The Honeymooners, dies in Connecticut at age 85. Today in History, November 9th. Mike Gracia, The Associated Press.
The winter storm warning is over, but the blizzard left behind a lot of snow for our region, and more snow is on the way. Full weather details are on deck. You know, my back is still sore from all of that shoveling I did over the weekend. Jeanette Rocher is here now with a full look at the weather forecast. Jeanette, the winter storm warning is over, but more snow may be on the way for our region, so maybe I shouldn't put that shovel away just yet.
No, do not put that shovel away yet, Hal, because we have 2 more centimeters of the cold white stuff headed our way tomorrow. And some blowing snow this evening as well, with the westerly wind gusting to 60 kilometers per hour, increasing clouds near midnight. And then into tomorrow morning, that's where we're going to be seeing those periods of snow up to 2 centimeters, like I mentioned. Blowing snow as well. 0 degrees is our high tomorrow, 11 degrees the overnight low into tomorrow evening. And then Wednesday, Remembrance Day, is when we're not going to see any more snow, at least for now anyways. Partly cloudy skies on Wednesday. -8 is the high, 0 the high for Thursday under sunny skies, and then partly cloudy skies for Friday, Saturday, Sunday, with the weekend finally putting us more into that average range, that average high range for this time of year of 6 degrees for both Saturday and Sunday. So like I said, the almanac tells us 6 degrees should be the average high for this time of year. We'll be there on the weekend. -6 is the low temperature. 18 degrees was our high temperature back in 1987, and our chilliest day on record, -28 right there back in 1945. Sun rose this morning at 7:34 a.m. and our evening sunset tonight at 4:56 p.m. Look at that. We are actually getting into the 4 o'clock hour for those sunsets. So let's take a look at what's happening across the nation here. Victoria and Vancouver could both see some chance of showers there as they're getting over a frontal system with Arctic air that came in earlier today. That should be gone by tonight. Edmonton and Calgary could see 2 to 4 centimeters of snow this evening. Saskatoon and Regina, -8, -10. Going to feel a lot chillier in the morning though with that wind chill. -25, -27 is what it's going to feel like. Winnipeg's high, -4 tomorrow under partly cloudy skies. Now we're going to see some nice temperatures over here. Let's take a look at Toronto. Sunshine at 21 degrees, 21 for Montreal as well, and 20 degrees for our friends over in Ottawa under sunny skies. So get your sunglasses out, guys. Same thing for Atlantic Canada. We're looking at much better weather over there than we certainly are in the prairies. 20 expected to be the high for Fredericton, sunny skies. Mix of sun and cloud in Halifax with a high of 20. 18 degrees in Charlottetown expected tomorrow. St. John's, Newfoundland could see 11 degree high with a mix of sun and cloud. Could see some 60 kilometer per hour wind gusts as well. So there you go. That is your weather.
North American stocks are surging on the burst of hope following encouraging information about a potential COVID-19 vaccine. Pfizer announced today that an early peek at its vaccine data suggests it may be 90% effective at preventing the virus. The company cautions, however, the initial protection rate might change by the time the study ends, and the announcement does not mean a vaccine is imminent. But the S&P 500 was up over 3% in trading today and was on track to close at a record for the first time in more than 2 months. Federal Industry Minister Navdeep Bains says Ottawa is serious about airlines refunding customers as a condition for federal support to deal with the COVID-19 pandemic.
We want to make it very clear, and Canadians have been very clear with us, that any support for the sector that is going through a very challenging time, that they step up and support Canadians who are also struggling, and that these refunds should be provided to their customers as soon as possible. So this is one issue that we put right at the beginning of our conversations with the airline industry to say you need to address this issue. And then our goal and objective is to make sure we have a competitive airline industry, so when we do have the economic recovery and when we do have the rebound, that we have a strong rebound and a strong airline industry.
Air Canada is trimming the number of planes in its fleet. It is also looking to grow its cargo business as it wrestles with an 88% drop in passenger traffic due to the pandemic. The Montreal-based airline says it lost $685 million in the July to September quarter, which is normally quite profitable. That compares with a profit of $636 million a year ago. Third quarter sales fell 86% to $757 million. The company says it hopes to save around $3 billion by the year 2023 by retiring 79 older aircraft and canceling or delaying the purchase of new planes. General Motors is recalling more than 217,000 vehicles in Canada and the United States because a transmission leak can potentially cause the vehicle to stop or catch on fire. The recall includes certain versions of the 2018 through 2020 Chevy Equinox and Traverse. It also includes the GMC Terrain, the Chevy Malibu, Cruze, Blazer, various Buick models, and Cadillacs were also affected. GM says 2 bolts may be missing from the start-stop mechanism, allowing the fluid to leak. Now, here's a look at today's markets. The TSX was up 193 points in the day to finish at 16,475. The Dow was up 834 to 29,157. The S&P 500 was up 41 points to 3550, and the Nasdaq was down 181 to 11,713. West Texas Intermediate Oil was up 268 to 39.82 US per barrel. Natural gas was down 3 cents to 2.86 US. Gold was down 3 cents as well to 1863.02 US an ounce, and silver was unchanged at 24.11 US an ounce. Wheat is at $265 per metric ton. Barley's also at $265. Canola is at $5.43, and corn is at $272 per metric ton. Live cattle were up $3.18 to $111.83. Feeder cattle were up $4.80 to $140.73, and lean hogs were up 70 cents to $65.60. The Canadian dollar was down slightly over the past 24 hours to 76.89 US. Recapping one of our top stories this hour, it was snow day in Lethbridge. The Lethbridge School Division canceled classes as school buses were not running. In-person classes were also canceled at Lethbridge College and at the University of Lethbridge. And now it's reading week, however, at the U of L. The winter storm that went through our region dumped up to 20 centimeters of snow in the city and up to 40 centimeters in the Crow's Nest Pass. There are tips to help you stretch your dollar if you're one of the many who lost their job due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Up next, Jeanette Rocher chats with an author who lost her job and came up with creative ways of saving money. That interview is on deck. But first, here's a look at what's happening in and around your community.
Here is your Bridge City News Community Calendar. A fundraiser for the Lethbridge Food Bank is taking place Tuesday, November 10th at Honker's Pub and Eatery beginning at 7 p.m. Come and support a worthy cause and listen to great live music showcasing local bands. Honker's will have a featured meal and drink with a portion of the sales going to the Lethbridge Food Bank, along with a donation box and bin for non-perishable food items. A $10 cover charge will also be taken. COVID-19 measures will be observed with hand sanitizer and temperature checks. It's that time of year again. The Old Man River Potters Guild Christmas sale is taking place from November 12th to the 15th at number 2, 4416 First Avenue South. Find that unique gift for someone special. This sale features a wide assortment of pottery and ceramics. For details, visit oldmanriverpottersguild.com. The Juno Beach Centre is Canada's only museum in Normandy dedicated to honoring the contributions of 1.1 million men and women who served during World War II. This year, support a worthy cause and take part in the Remembrance Day races being held until November 28th. You can register for one of 3 virtual race distances, each with its own special meaning. Participants will receive a race kit that includes a commemorative medal, a Juno Beach collector coin, a bracelet, and more. For details and to register, visit junobeach.org. And that's your Bridge City News Community Calendar.
As many as 40 million people were out of work, downsized, laid off, or simply fired shortly after the economic shutdown this year due to COVID-19. Once thriving businesses, small and large, are now struggling to survive. Our next guest knows all too well what it feels like to be out of work. And if you find yourself in this unfortunate situation, she's here to tell you about some very important steps you need to take immediately after you lose a job. Mary Carto's passion to reach out and uplift the millions of unemployed and underemployed people worldwide has increased since the publication of her devotional books, Help for the Laid Off and Hope for the Laid Off. Mary Carto joins me now via Skype from her home in Houston, Texas. Mary, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I very much appreciate it.
Yeah, it's lovely to have you. Now, Mary, you understand firsthand what it feels like to go from happily employed to finding yourself out of work, not once, but actually twice, right? So, Mary, can you maybe talk about what you experienced and share your story with our viewers?
Oh, for sure. I was a single mom during both layoffs. The first one was in the early 90s, lasted exactly 2 years. I learned so much about everything. I learned how to survive, not only survive, but thrive with joy as a single mom for 2 years. At the end of the first 2-year layoff, not only did I get a job, I got the career change of my dreams without a college degree, without training, without a foot in the door. Okay, that's crazy. A layoff can be and often is one of the best things that can happen to someone. It depends on their response. Okay, got my job, 8 years went by, having the time of my life, doing what I was born to do. Got laid off again, out of the clear blue sky. 3 weeks after my second layoff, I fell 16 feet out of a tree.
What?
I broke myself. What was I doing in the tree? I was trying to prune the tree myself. I fell 16 feet off the top rung of my ladder. A single mom has to do what a single mom has to do. When you don't have a job, you don't have money, you don't have a boyfriend, you do what you have to do. A week later, I'm in my home office. I'm in such pain. And I'm crying and I'm like, God, are you kidding me? Really? Why would you allow me to be laid off again? And why would I have this accident? I mean, what is the purpose? And boom, it was like, write a book about trusting me during a layoff. That's how Help for the Laid Off came to be written, quite frankly. You know, anything can happen during a layoff. It really depends on your response. So I learned a lot during the second layoff as well. So
that's amazing. Now, you said that yourself that you didn't see it coming, and most people in that situation don't see it coming, right? But now that you've been through this a couple of times, do you have any advice for someone facing a job loss? I'm sure it's really a scary time for them.
The first thing I would recommend is allow yourself to feel all the gamut of emotions that you're feeling. It's very normal. You're going to feel anger, resentment, stress, worry, loss, anxiety, all of those things. The important thing is you cannot allow yourself to get stuck in any one of those emotions, especially self-pity. Your job is to find a job, okay? And you need to find someone reliable and trustworthy that you can talk to, maybe a friend, maybe a relative, maybe a pastor. Another thing I recommend, I don't know if y'all have these in Canada, but in United States, you could Google, it's called Unemployment Ministry or Job Support Group.
Okay.
You can go there and, join those. The benefit of finding a job support group in your area is not only are you get aware of available jobs, but they offer free counseling. They offer resume editing. They offer coaching interview skills, all for free by volunteers. Exercise is critical. It really releases your anxiety, things like that. I'm a writer, so putting things on paper, imagine writing whatever you're thinking or feeling and knowing that nobody else is going to see it. That is beyond therapeutic. One of the other things I learned to do, and it's very goofy, but I learned to barter for services. Now, listen, think about that. As a woman, you've got to look top notch when you go to a job interview. Am I right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I learned, I offered to babysit my hairdresser's infant son if she would cut and style my hair the morning of an interview. Now, if you're a mom, finding someone that you can trust with your baby, that's big. That's like huge. So that was a win-win situation. I did not have to financially pay $100 to get my hair done, but I got it done. And she was able to enjoy a night out with her husband. Another example, I have a friend whose elderly mother had knee surgery and had to go to physical therapy 3 times a week. And this was during my second layoff. So times were very shaky back then. She was scared to death of losing her job.
Right.
I had all the time in the world. I took her mother to physical therapy for 6 weeks, 3 times a week for 6 weeks. She paid my utilities for that amount of time.
Oh, wow.
So you can get your needs met, but you got to speak up. People are not mind readers.
Right. You got to be a little creative too, it sounds like.
For sure, for sure. You do what you have to do. And it was fun.
Oh, I'm sure. Now, you've put together some steps that every person should take immediately when they lose a job. And I know you've mentioned some that are very helpful, but what can somebody do immediately afterwards?
File for unemployment. That's the first obvious thing. Also, the more you get out of the house, wear a mask, but if you can go out and volunteer, make your story known. The more you are out in the world helping people, the more opportunities you have to share your story. You never know who knows who and who's going to bring the right tip to you. I also believe in praying and having a gratitude journal. I heard it said, what would it be like if you woke up tomorrow morning with only the people and things that you remember to be thankful for the night before? That had a profound effect on me. I mean, just think about it. So you may not have a job, but you have your health, you have family, you have friends, you've got a roof over your head. So another thing, this was really hard for me to learn, but swallow your pride and ask for help. Even you think your family and your friends, they want to help you, but it's very uncomfortable on the other side. I learned this after being laid off. It's very uncomfortable for them. So if you just say, listen, this is what I need. This is what I need. And just be very honest. And if they can help you, great. And if not, move on and find someone that can. One thing I mentioned during my first layoff, I had the career change in my dreams, but I had to work for it. Meanwhile, I looked for jobs that I had been doing for 20 years. I had a resume for that, but I also created a separate resume focusing on the skills that would highlight towards the kind of jobs I wanted. That way, I needed a job no matter what. I would take any job that came and then continue to look for the job I really wanted. So, I mean, you do what you have to do. And I took a lot of jobs that were very underpaying, very quote beneath me. But you know what? When you're out of everything, your pride goes out the window, and that's a very good lesson. And I'm glad for that lesson.
Yeah, and I mean, you got to do what you got to do, like you said, and we're talking about looking for alternative sources of income, and sometimes you just have to do that, right?
I sold a lot of things. I had a lot of garage sales. As a single mom, I had to cash out my 401k, and I took like a 30% tax hit. That really hurt, but I obviously lived. I had the support of friends and family and church, and so yeah.
Yeah. Now, Mary, do you have any tips for anyone needing to radically reduce their expenses and change their lifestyle, just kind of like change their whole household budget to adapt to their new reality?
Well, get rid of cable, get rid of your house line, and just have your cell phone. An alternative would be if you needed to have your phone for internet, then get rid of your cell phone. I don't know if surely you have libraries there. Get your entertainment and your books and your movies from the library for free. Why pay if you don't have to? Also, the libraries have computers. You can go and do your job search for free at the library. Scale down what you like to eat. Learn to cook very frugally. We had tuna macaroni casserole more times than I can count. If you need someone to take care of your pet while you're unemployed, let them adopt your pet temporarily. Shop at Goodwill, shop at used clothing stores. Get rid of the cable TV, get rid of the things that you do not need. Another thing that for any parents that are listening, my daughter was 9 to 11 during my first layoff. I really thought as a parent I would die. I thought I was the worst mother in the world because I couldn't get her school photos. I couldn't get her the band. It hurt me as a parent.
Yeah.
But I'm here to tell you, my daughter, she'll tell you today, she's a 38-year-old military wife, mom of 2. She did not know that she was suffering back then. She said, Mom, I never felt neglected. I never felt like I was doing without. And she learned how to create a budget, how to stick to a budget. She learned she's not who she is. She's not who she is based on what she looks, what kind of car she drives, what she's wearing. She learned the value of a dollar. She learned the difference between need and want. What kind of good parent doesn't want their kids to learn those hard life lessons? Well, they're not going to learn them on Easy Street.
Right.
They're just not. And so she's grateful that she went through those hard times, and you come out a better, stronger, more compassionate person.
And it probably brought you two closer because you spent so much more time together, which in a kid's eyes, that's all they really want from their parent, right?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And during my second layoff, she was, don't make me do the math. I know she was 19 at one point. She actually worked and helped pay some of my bills without being asked. So
wow.
What kind of a kid does that?
Yeah, exactly. Now,
and she learned that through, you learn through those hard times of adversity. You just do.
Mary, what sort of feedback have you received from people who have read your 3 books?
Thank you for asking that. I actually have developed a lot of friendships since the first book was published. It's very rewarding when people contact me via email or Skype, phone, Zoom, whatever. They'll say, Mary, I want you to know I found a job. I started a business. I was doing this, but I thought of you. And it's like, I took your advice. The thing is, just because you've been doing A all of your life, I know you need a job, and if that's the next job, go for it. But you don't have to always be doing that. You can go for what you want. be bold, be courageous. What do you have to lose? President Trump says, what do you have to lose? I mean, it's just true. What would have happened if I had not gone for my dream? I wouldn't have had it. If you don't ask, the answer will for sure be no.
Well, that's true. There you go. Lots of fantastic advice in all of your books, including like how to land a job interview and all kinds of stuff. I wish we had all day to talk about this, but it looks like we're running out of time, Mary. But appreciate having you on our show. Mary Cardo, author of Hope for the Laid Off, Help for the Laid Off, and Prayers for the Laid Off. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you. God bless you. Thank you.
Remembrance Day, lest we forget. It's a time to remember the many sacrifices paid by our soldiers to allow us to enjoy the true freedoms we have today. It's also a time to review how our society and government treats veterans and their families. Joining me now in studio is Wayne King, a retired Canadian Forces Colonel and Service Officer for the Lethbridge Royal Canadian Legion. Wayne, welcome back to Bridge City News.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
Good to have you here, Wayne. Let's talk about why you decided to enlist in the first place and how long ago was that?
Well, I enlisted in 1959. I was in Edmonton at the time, not that long after World War II, and of course Korea War had wrapped up a few years prior to that. There were lots of books, articles, analysis of the war and the efforts that Canada was putting into it. And I thought that, yes, this is an area where perhaps I could make a contribution.
You want to do your part?
Yes.
Well, that's good. Okay. Yeah. Now, back in the Second World War, I've heard stories of people enlisting as young as 16?
Yes, that's
Why do you think that was? They wanted to give back as well? They wanted to be part of maybe a movement of the war at the time?
Some of those who enlisted underage were individuals who perhaps had family connections from prior areas of conflict. They had family feelings that, yes, if the country is putting an armed forces together to pursue whatever ideals they wished, they should play a part in it. Some, for example, one of the World War II veterans that I've recently dealt with, Polish national, he joined when he was 16, but in his case, his country had just been overrun, in part by Germans, in part by the Russians.
Wow. Now, we actually have a lot of veterans here in Lethbridge, don't we?
We do. We have, I estimate, probably in excess of 1,000.
Wow. And some centurions as well, people celebrating over 100 years?
Many.
That's amazing.
Yes.
That is incredible. Yeah. And I guess amazing stories they have to share as well, right?
Oh, they do. Although you'll find that veterans, particularly those who are in the intense combat situations, very seldom will sit down and talk about their experiences. And that's one of the difficulties that they have throughout life after they return to Canada.
I can imagine some of the terrible memories too. You know, Wayne, some people talk about the fact that war, there are no winners in war. You know, like it's a necessary evil, but sometimes we have to go out and fight for our freedom. Let's talk a bit about that importance.
Well, it is very important. It's very important for the nation as a whole to ensure that the country and its citizens stand up for the ideals that they wish to portray to the world. If they see other areas of conflict or domination around the world and feel that it's unjust, then yes, sometimes the nation will join in a conflict out of allegiance to the countries that they hold dear, and sometimes on their own.
I guess too, when you see a lot of human rights violations around the world, right?
Yes, yeah.
And you want to do something about it. You want to make a difference, right? Stand up to the tyranny.
Indeed,
right?
Yeah.
Let's talk about the poppy itself as well. There's been a lot of controversy, especially recently. Whole Foods, owned by Amazon, it's an American company, saying to their employees, you can't wear poppies, it's not part of the uniform. They received a tremendous amount of backlash from the Conservative Party of Canada, even Prime Minister Justin Trudeau saying it's silly. A lot of Canadians were going to boycott the company. They backpedaled saying, whoa, okay, you know what, we've had to change our heart now. What do you think when you hear about companies like that?
Well, as far as the reaction of the politicians, both provincial and federal, I think that I would have been very disappointed had that reaction not been there.
Right.
But what it shows to me on the part of Whole Foods is an absolute lack of understanding of what the poppy means to the veteran and to Canadians as a whole. And it's not a club badge, it's not some miscellaneous thing that you might pick out of a box of cornflakes or whatever.
It's not part of a political movement.
No, it's not.
Right?
It represents the sacrifice of our veterans, not only those who have given their lives, but those who came back wounded in defense of the ideals of the Canadian nation.
Let me ask you something then. As a veteran now, Wayne, what does the poppy mean for you?
It's a symbol of service to Canada and to Canadians. But not only to Canada and Canadians, but it's also a symbol of service to what we uphold internationally. And I would hope that in general, all Canadians would agree with the standards that we portray to the world and would recognize the poppy. Initially, it was very much just a Canadian thing, but it has spread throughout a number of countries in the world.
And there's even a little bit of controversy surrounding the middle part of the poppy.
Yes.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about that? What happened there?
Well, the poppy is copyrighted by the Royal Canadian Legion. And for many, many years, there was a feeling that, no, we've got a copyright. It is the red poppy with a black center, which reflects the actual poppy itself. And we're not going to change it. It's what it is, and that's what we'll use. For a brief period, they put a green center.
I remember that, yeah.
In the poppy. That didn't last too long, went back to the black. But one of the comments that we hear frequently in recent years particularly is that in the course of the poppy season, we'll go through 5 or 10 different poppies because we lose them. We get into a car, put our seatbelt on, and the poppy gets wiped out.
You need a pocket full of poppies,
yes,
right?
Yeah, right.
Right.
So what has happened, they've come out with a black center, which is on a pin, much like you'd see for other items that you'd put on your dress, but it keeps the poppy on the dress much more securely.
That's smart,
So,
good move.
Yeah.
Now, Wayne, when we actually buy a poppy, what does the money go towards?
Well, first of all, you should never buy a poppy.
When you make a donation.
We don't sell them. We would encourage anybody and everybody in the country to have and wear a poppy as a sign of recognition of the veteran. And they're free. It's just a matter of either coming to the Legion or at any of the poppy boxes around the city, taking one. But we do, of course, gladly accept donations, and all of those donations go to the Poppy Fund, which is 100% used in support of veterans to meet their emergent and urgent needs, whether it's for shelter, food, medicine, or to support members of their own families.
Let's talk about a bit of a challenge it is for veterans leaving war-torn countries and coming back maybe with post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, and just that challenge of getting back into civilian life. How difficult that is for so many veterans.
It is a very difficult transition. I think the best way to understand it is that the soldier, before he goes overseas into an area of conflict, undergoes a very intense period of training. Not just the individual, but also all of the members of his formed unit. And that area of, or that period of training can extend in some cases up to a year or more. During that time, he becomes absolutely dependent upon members of his team when they're entering areas of mutual danger and so on, knowing that you are there to protect the back of your comrade and that your comrade has your back as well. Right. You've become very, very dependent on it. Unfortunately, in many of the areas of operations, they're involved in some horrific situations. What they see, what they undergo is something that cannot be erased from their memory.
And they don't want to talk about it.
They don't want to talk about it. It's, in some cases, far too graphic, far too harsh to even discuss with family members. When they return to Canada, many of them are released from the forces, but in doing so, they've lost that bond of their comrades, and they're immersed in general society, but without the comfort of that formed unit. And they find it very, very difficult to even talk about those situations with close family members.
So challenge reintegrating into society then, right? What about programs available? Shouldn't we be doing more as a society and our governments to provide these programs to help our veterans?
I agree, we should be. It's something that, well, in previous wars, it was frequently referred to as shell shock and so on. In truth, it was an earlier form or an earlier expression used to describe PTSD. It's something that is very difficult to pin down and understand because it varies. The impact of it and the seriousness of it depends so much on the individual. There is no single course of treatment or no single course of trying to come to grips with it as far as the veteran is concerned. But we should be giving more emphasis, more credence to developing the whatever treatment programs seem to be effective.
I understand one of the most common complaints from veterans is the length of time it takes to get a disability benefit decision from Veterans Affairs Canada. Is that still the case right now?
Unfortunately, it is. And it's one of the very difficult situations, particularly those suffering from things like PTSD, because it's such a long process to get the individual into a program to understand just what kind of a treatment program might be effective for that individual. They wait many, many months, in some cases over a year, before they even hear from Veterans Affairs whether there is a program that they can be enrolled in and see if there's some help available. Regrettably, the veteran in some cases feel totally isolated, forgotten about, they've given up, and they seek solace in drugs, alcohol, and that type of thing, which is not necessary. It's something that, as a society, we should not tolerate.
A while ago, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said veterans are asking for more than we can give. Do you think veterans have forgiven our Prime Minister for that and moved on?
No, they have not. And again, in the context of where some of our political leaders express those feelings and make those statements, the veteran feels that, well, okay, the government is not going to come to the table, they're not going to give any help, and it drives them into isolation even more so.
Feel disrespected, right?
Well, they certainly do. They certainly do, yes.
What message would you have for a young person who's watching right now who may be considering a career with the Canadian Armed Forces, the Navy, the Air Force, you know, the Army?
I can only speak from my own personal experience, my own view, and that is if I were a younger individual and able to re-enroll and so on, I would not hesitate, because it is a life that gives so much training and so much self-dependence and so much self-discipline to the individual that it stands them in good stead for future careers.
So it's a great education, right?
It is. It is.
And a chance to see the world?
Well, yeah, but seeing the world isn't really the greatest benefit. It's nice. It's I think seeing the world, we quickly realize just how lucky we are to be Canadian and to live in this country. We understand very quickly just how the difficulties of life on this globe have impacted other nations and other peoples. Yeah. So yes, that's an important aspect of it, but to me, the greater impact is being able to go out, form bonds with your comrades, be they airmen, soldiers, sailors, and so on, and to try and maintain those bonds throughout life.
Wayne, we really appreciate your service. Thanks so much for coming in today.
You're very welcome.
Wayne King, Canadian Forces Colonel, retired now, and Service Officer for the Lethbridge Royal Canadian Legion. On behalf of all of us here at Bridge City News, I'm Hal Roberts. God bless. Thanks so much for watching.